Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the June 24th, 2024 Planning Board meeting. If we could all please first stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tom asked me to remind everybody that this meeting is not live, it's on tape, so he's not 100% sure when it's going to be broadcast, but just so you all know that. All right, first we got correspondence. Anybody have anything they want to talk about in the correspondence? Good. Okay, we'll move on to the meeting minutes of June 10th, 2024. Any comments, additions, alterations? Good, John?
All good here, yeah?
Counselor?
All good.
Good? Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes of June 10th, 2024?
Motion.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
I abstain, I wasn't here.
Yes, he was on vacation.
Yeah.
You get docked for that time off.
Yeah.
All right, first on the regular portion of the meeting, we have the Shrub Oak International School. This is a request for a second one-year time extension, location 3151 Stony Street. How are you?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Good to see you all. David
too.
Steinmetz from the law firm of Zarin and Steinmetz. Good to be back before the board. Mr. Chairman, as you indicated, we are here tonight asking for a further extension. Much of the construction has been completed. It is not done in its entirety. They're in the second phase. There are 85 students enrolled. There are approximately 400 staff members in 3 shifts, so there's about 150 staff members per shift. They have installed additional surface parking, but they have not completed the paving. We're still working on some issues with Mr. Ciarcia, and we would greatly appreciate an extension of our approvals.
Got any issues?
We have no issues at present.
Counselor? Anybody from the board? No. That being said, do I have a motion to approve the second one-year time extension for the Shrub Oak International School?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
You couldn't come up with anything to make it more challenging, Rich? Come
I
on.
was thinking. I was.
I know, trust me, I know you were.
File, no, yeah.
Good to see you all.
Counselor. All right, next up is Atlantic Appliance. This is a request for a first one-year time extension. Locations 2010 Naperville Street. How you doing?
Hello, everybody. Happy summer. Good evening, Joseph Rena, the principal site design consultant. I'm representing Atlantic Appliance, who is applying for a one-year extension on their approval. They're just about in a position to get a building permit and hopefully start construction shortly.
Okay. John?
We have no issues.
All right. Counselor? Members of the board? None. That being said, do I have a motion to request the first one-year time extension for Atlantic Appliance?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good luck. You don't want to go sit down and come back.
You want?
Next, we have the Gardenia Hotel. This is also a request for a first one-year time extension. Locations 1952 Commerce Street.
Good evening, Joseph Rena, principal site design consultant. Requesting a one-year time extension. The project is not ready for construction at this point, but the owner is requesting that we extend the approval.
Any issues, John?
No issues, but as a point of information for you all, that I believe that the project is up for sale, not to be built by the owner, but to the subsequent owner.
Okay.
That would make a move.
So,
Counselor, any issues? Members of the board?
Nope.
All right, then, do I have a motion for the request for the first one-year time extension for the Gardenia Hotel?
Motion. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay.
All right, next we got Underhill Farm. This is also a request for a first one-year time extension. Locations 370 Underhill Avenue.
One-year time extension. As you know, construction has started,
Yeah.
but we're asking for a time extension on the approval, as a matter of fact.
Any issues?
No issues.
Counselor? Members of the board?
I
Okay.
just- I have a question. You said construction has started. Are all the permits in place at this point?
Yes.
Well, you don't have a building permit.
Well, building permit, but we have signed site plans, we have DEP approval, we have health department approval, so they're commencing on site work. Mostly demolition, cleaning up the site, preparation of the site.
What's still missing?
What's that?
What's missing, if anything?
The building permit?
What, any outside agencies?
No,
Army Corps?
no.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
We voted, right? We didn't go.
We moved.
Roll call. We moved, someone moved it? All right, so we moved it. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Do I have a motion to move into the work session portion of the meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Again, up on the agenda is Underhill Farm. This is a discussion of site plan amendments. Locations 370 Underhill Avenue.
Tom, where do you want this? Good evening, Joseph Rena, here representing Underhill Farm. With me tonight is Paul Galero, Michael Galero, the project sponsors, the project architect. Joe Thompson is also here to make a presentation. From a site plan perspective, we would like to bring to the board's attention some proposed amendments to the site plan. So if you take a look at the site plan in front of you here, what we've done is we've added some parking spaces. So those are shown in green here. There are 6 spaces here, and 7 spaces in this location here, and 1 additional space on this run along the pond. 2 spaces have been eliminated, and that at the corner of that intersection of the driveway going to the rear and the driveway shooting off to the right. Additionally, these townhouse units, the first 2 on the left are now 2, where 4 were previously proposed, and those 2 are now going into the condominium building, eliminating the recreation center, and the pool has been, that pool had the common area, and the pool has been also eliminated, and there will just be 1 pool on the site now, which will be in the apartment complex, which will be shared by the entire complex. Lastly, I'd like to point out the proposed location of the chapel. The chapel has been deconstructed, and at some point it will be reconstructed in this location here, off to the northeast of the condominium building. So in addition to this presentation here tonight on the site plan, we've got a presentation on the proposed reconstruction and rehabilitation of the Underhill house. So I'll pass over to Joe Thompson.
Joe,
Let him give you this.
before you go,
Yeah,
what
go.
drawing,
Go.
what drawing is that? What number?
This is
what-
the site plan, so,
What, is that 102?
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe there's a way to,
Good evening, Joseph Thompson, also here to represent the Underhill Farms project. What we're proposing tonight is the new use and the rehabilitation of the Underhill Mansion. I think this is an opportunity for an exciting restoration and rehabilitation of the property, and an adaptive reuse that's proposed for a number of different commercial type uses in the building. The primary being a restaurant and an event space, which I think is exciting in that it can activate the building for a public use so people can experience this grand space. The house itself is built of a few main components. There's the original, more traditional colonial type portion that was approximately 1928, and then a larger, more prominent Italianate addition that we believe is circa maybe 1880. And then on the far west, there's a second edition that was built, we believe, sometime maybe in the 60s or 70s. It's a little bit more modern type construction. So if the board will allow, I'll walk through the proposed plans for each level and some of the renovations we're proposing. They're done with a pretty sensitive touch. It's obviously a very important, prominent building in the community, and a lot of the work that's proposed is done so in a way that's delicate and trying to respect the integrity of the original architectural features of the home, both interior and exterior. Sorry, quite a few drawings. We've pretty carefully detailed and articulated the existing conditions that are in the package. And this drawing sheet, A101, is the main ground level where most of the work would be taking place. So what it proposes is to convert and adaptively reuse this home into a restaurant. The majority of the work would be planned to happen in the main core of the building. And then the East End addition, again, the more prominent Italianate addition, would be preserved intact in its current format. So there's two large dining rooms, tall, impressive ceiling, beautifully detailed spaces that we would preserve in kind and could be used for private event dining. The main area, we're proposing approximately a 40-seat restaurant with a bar. And then in the rear, where it wouldn't impact the main facade of the building, the overall composition, we're proposing an addition that would house all the restaurant equipment, the kitchen, that would be needed to make the space function, the restrooms. On the west end, there's the smaller addition, which we're also preserving, but altering to some extent to propose what would be a small coffee shop, retail store, maybe like a farm and country store that we think could serve both the residents that'll be on the property as well as the community well. There's a small porch addition that's planned, I believe it's about 400 square feet, 470 square feet in front. That would be an extension of the current porch. So we're taking care to totally preserve the original porch as it's formatted, and then to carry that line over. So as you can see in some of the artist renderings that we've prepared on the front two sheets, we've done this in almost like a sepia type historic fashion. That line just continues. So it doesn't make a loud statement, alter the overall composition of the original portions of the home. But it allows for what could be really quite nice dining area, covered dining, and also patio dining that overlook the pond that's on the property. So I think could be a very pleasant addition to have to this restaurant, to have both indoor and outdoor seating opportunities. You can see there's a photograph of the home in its current state. Since the school left in 2020, there's been some deterioration. There's some windows that need replacement. There's also some non-original features that we're planning to restore back to their authentic, original format, like this corner window, where there were modern plate glass windows added in that corner. We'll remove those. We'll restore with clapboard cedar siding in kind with what's original. Windows throughout will generally be preserved. All of the architectural millwork, the brackets, some of the decorative prominent chimneys, the tower will all be preserved. So we're trying to take, again, a careful approach to the renovation and the alterations to the building. On the second floor, we're proposing a series of office spaces, one for Unicorn Contracting to be a field office while the development is under construction, so they can be on-site and present to be able to carefully watch and implement the main project as well as this renovation. And then again, in the 1880 portion, that section would be preserved in its current format, but would be able to accommodate perhaps 2 small office spaces or artist studios that could be leased out. The third floor is somewhat smaller in footprint, but what we'd like to propose is a caretaker's apartment that we could have somebody on site to take care of issues, to maintain the property, and that they'd be right there and available for everything that'll be occurring throughout the construction and post-occupancy. That's the overall proposal for the approach of how we'd like to rehabilitate, restore the mansion, and then also activate it, again, in a way that engages the public, which I think it's an exciting opportunity for Yorktown.
Quick question, you worked your way up. The root cellars are pretty fabulous in their own right.
They are.
Any way to incorporate them into, you know, a wine bar or anything like that? I don't know if they're usable.
So there is some thought for, you know, possibly phase 2 improvements. That basement is actually a pretty impressive space on the circa 1880 edition side. Tall ceilings, beautiful stone walls. So we think that there is an opportunity that maybe that could be activated in the future. I think phase 1, it's a pretty ambitious task just to rehabilitate and reconfigure this house and do it the right way and get this restaurant up and running. But we have given that some thought. I think it's possible. The root cellars would obviously be preserved. You know, we wouldn't want any harm to come to them in any way. So even the addition that's planned out the rear, we're proposing to suspend over that, probably with steel, so that at the ground level, the new foundations aren't affecting those root cellars. They're essentially brick masonry tunnels that lead out towards the rear of the residence. So we think there probably could be some life for them in the future.
Questions? It looks fantastic.
Thank you.
I think it's be a great addition to town.
Could you tell us a little bit about the exterior finish of the building, what it is now and what you're proposing?
We can. So it's very traditional materials for that era, and it's sort of a colonial and Italianate style influence. So it's cedar clapboard. So I think the intent is to match in kind. That the new finishes would be a painted finish that would match the original. Again, the brackets that are there would all be preserved. The new porch, we would try to template those brackets and have something made that's very similar. Same for the old, you know, historic rail that we would have on the, you know, guarding the edge of the new porch. So there's going to be care paid to making sure that, you know, any new materials that are introduced are done so in a way that the overall body of the structure is cohesive.
So the detail and materials are going to be basically what we see, but expanded into the new porch area.
Exactly.
And any renovations too.
Exactly. We would plan to match casings and sills and drip caps and, you know, similar tile siding with similar reveals. So all that's intended to remain, you know, comparable. Those details haven't been prepared yet. That could be done as something that's a follow-up with the board or as part of you know, intended prior to building permit. But that's something we plan to continue to detail if the board likes the overall approach for the
What about the roof material?
roofing material on the addition. It's a flat roof, so it shouldn't be visible from the ground anywhere. And so that would probably be a membrane type roofing.
All right, but what about the main building roof? I'm assuming that's going to be modified.
Yeah. So whatever material may have been original seems to not be there any longer. So if it was originally, let's say, a slate or a cedar roof, it's since been replaced with asphalt shingle. So basically, we would propose something in kind to what currently exists.
That's my only thought is that maybe something more traditional could be looked at. I mean, a synthetic slate or something like that, possibly, that would replicate the look of the time, even though it's no longer there. It might be something to consider. But just throwing it out as an idea at this point.
It'd be interesting if we could find some historic photos that might show what that roofing
Right.
was, and maybe investigate a little bit and see,
Mhm.
yeah, if that might inform our approach.
Okay.
two other questions that had come up during the process. One was signage and the type of restaurant this would be. I know you probably don't want to give up who it is, but are there any thoughts on the signage or the exterior outside of the building?
I don't know if we would need anything directly on the building. Would it be freestanding? Yeah. I think we wouldn't want it mounted directly to the building.
Right.
So we can come up with a proposal for that, some type of monument or something freestanding so it doesn't affect the architecture of the building.
And we also, as been discussed recently over the past few weeks, when a restaurant comes in, there's a lot of equipment that comes with that. So how would you deal with that, with the architecture that you have there?
So what we're dealing with is if the kitchen were to be on the back side of this addition, which I believe is the most appropriate place to propose it, where we'll have the most limited effect on the original architecture and also on the overall appearance of the property. It's a single story, so we wouldn't have the ability to put some of the larger equipment up on the roof like we might on new construction or something with higher pitches. So with a flat roof, I think the only appropriate measure we could take is to screen it well on the back side of the building. So what we're proposing behind the addition is there's things that are needed to operate the restaurant. We'll need a refuse area. We'll need, grease disposal. We'll need an air handling unit. We'll need makeup air and all that sort. So the thought is to consolidate that wall into this rear corner and to screen that with decorative iron-type fencing and evergreens. So that way that from the ground level, anyone that might pass around the property on that side won't be able to see that equipment.
What about ductwork for the cooking equipment?
Ductwork for the cooking equipment should all enter and exit again through the rear, so I don't see the need to come up over the top in any way. So I think that could all happen as a rear discharge. As the project develops, we will get a mechanical engineer involved that will have to detail all that, but I don't see any reason why we couldn't have a rear wall discharge on the hood at the back.
And I think as that gets developed, that is certainly something we're going to want to see at ABACA. And the Historic Board will sure make reference to it too. So as you develop this, I think it's important to keep us in the loop.
We can do that, and we can also produce a package of, let's say, proposed elevations and screening measures that could be reviewed by ABACA and this board and have that all documented as part of the presentation.
Rich, I want to maybe just for the record state the obvious. This dining establishment is intended to be open to the public. This is not just for the residents.
Correct, it's public.
Right. So again, I think this is actually the reuse we had contemplated because the entire community could enjoy the interior of the house and see what it was and everything else. I've had the opportunity to be in there a couple of times with sidewalks, and it's something that should be shared with the community. And I think this is a great reuse. So,
I agree.
terrific.
Good. All right. Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. By all means.
So the chapel's another structure on the property that is being saved. It is being proposed to be relocated to facilitate the new work, but being saved. My understanding is the current state is that all the materials have been salvaged and they're intended to be reconstructed. And it would be repurposed basically as a reverend's residence, that would be private on-site. But again, maintained in its original format. The only alterations that are proposed are really at the rear. We'd like to add just a small outdoor deck area to make it a little bit more habitable. It's a small space, only a few hundred square feet, so we think a little bit of outdoor area might be nice on the back side of it. But from the front, the integrity of the appearance of that facade, the composition of it, the front projecting covered roof, all that would be preserved and rebuilt. So that's something that I'm not sure that we've printed those materials, but I believe they've probably been submitted to the planning department or can be. Could be reviewed in further detail at some point, but we are planning to save that, repurpose it.
I think we're all glad to hear that the material is able to be saved and this structure will be reconstructed, different location nonetheless, but then be able to be used.
And we'll have it on a modern foundation, so some of the problems that would exist with the old stone one.
I just want to add that, so the chapel where we're positioning it now is going to be in the setback, but as you know, on the overlay zone, the planning board has the ability to modify that, to vary that. So it would fall within the allowance that you have to vary that. So if you want to square it. And it's going to have a little patio area in the back. So as you can see, proximity to the property line there. But if we were to slide it forward, it would basically be up on the curb line, very close to the curb line. We just want to make sure you're aware of that, that positioning.
What's the nearest structure on the neighboring property to that?
This is all wooded
Right.
back here.
So it's a few hundred feet away?
Yeah, I mean, the closest is the actual Beaver Ridge building, which is quite a distance away.
Right.
I mean, other than what we're proposing.
Right, not on
Yeah,
the,
other than what we're
on
proposing.
the
as far
opposite
as the
property, the
condominium
adjacent
goes.
property.
Right.
Joe, did the choice for the location of the chapel affect any of the existing prior approved parking?
No, that's always been a vacant area.
So you're utilizing an open area that was not
Correct.
designated for parking?
Correct.
Okay.
John, what are our next steps here?
I would say develop a resolution for next time to approve most of the changes, or all of the changes. And then I think going, what one of you said, I think, Rob, that you need to see the ongoing development
Details.
of the mansion. You'd put something in the resolution that would come to you as they're moving and developing the project.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Signage to be run through Rebecca.
Yeah, we'll want to see where all that is.
Yeah.
All right. Good luck. Thank you. We'll see you soon. Okay, next on the agenda is Chipotle. This is Lowe's Pad C. This is the discussion of construction details. Locations 3180 Compound Road.
Back again. As you know, the Chipotle site is at its completion point. They're looking to gain a CO so they can operate. And there were some things brought up upon a site inspection, and we'd like to address some of those this evening. Originally, on the retaining wall detail, it showed a railing at the top of the wall, which was part of a standard detail. And that's typically, we put that on there if there's a pedestrian area, patio, or whatnot above the wall. In this case, we don't want anyone going up above the wall or accessing that area. It's not a code requirement unless it is a utilized space. So we removed that. We removed that detail. So it's no longer showing the railing, and there's no railing installed out there. So during construction, with some of those heavy rainfalls we had, water coming in off of the Taconic ramp and Route 202 into the property, we literally a small stream of water coming through. And we're getting heavy erosion issues. The DOT got involved, and we had to make some mitigate that. So riprap was added to the slope in two specific locations, which are, so here's the site here, here's the main entrance, right, here's 202. So you'll see this location here and that location there, there's a riprap added to the slope because those are where the concentrations of water were. And as a precaution, along the top of the wall, we included riprap to protect the wall itself. DOT is not planning on making any modifications to relieve this situation, so we've had to address them ourselves. In addition to that, I think there's some landscaping that was to be completed, and we're looking to keep that to the fall. Since this is not a good time for planting. And I think that's the major points, right, John? Was there anything else?
Good. Any comments, concerns from the board?
I think so.
So what are our next steps with this one, a memo or?
Well, it's up to you. So you're removing the railing
Yeah.
as a requirement, which is important for the record. It's not a code requirement
Right.
in the condition that they've constructed. So that's why we discussed it with Joe and felt that it was best for you to officially remove it.
Yeah.
So you can do either the memo or the resolution. I'm going to suggest a resolution.
Okay.
That you do it next time. It's not a time constraint here, right? And that's your next step. The only other thing that's left is there are some seats out on the patio, so we'll just wait for them to come in and do their special permit for that.
Do we add the landscaping issue to the
The
resolution?
landscaping issue, there is $5,000 performance bond left, and there's a $3,000 landscape bond left, so we felt that it was enough as security for them to do the 24 trees that they have to do in September, which is 10 deciduous trees around the site, and then there's 14 evergreens in the DOT right-of-way that they have to do.
And this is the last piece of this development. Everything else is,
the last piece of it. The only thing that hasn't been done is the monument sign, but we're expecting that that's going to come through pretty soon. It's in fabrication, as I've been told.
okay.
Joe, it looks like the riprap work that you were talking about is outside of the property line in the state right-of-way?
That's right.
Is there permission to perform that work?
Yeah, we had to do that as part of we had to take out a permit from the DOT, even though it's their issue.
I mean,
But
they'll allow you to do it.
We did take out a permit with that.
They'll
And it's
allow you
still-
to do the work on their property?
The work is done, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the work is done.
Okay.
All right, so we'll get together a reso?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have Nathan's Mr. Softy. This is a discussion of a special use permit, locations 1990 Commerce Street.
Joe Rena representing, yeah,
I didn't see mine here. so I'm back on you.
CVS Plaza. Yeah, late breaking, we just got the special use permit and check-in this afternoon. I don't think the ownership is not local, so we had to get that. Anyway, so we prepared a site plan, which is essentially an as-built condition of the proposed, well, it's not proposed, but the existing gravel patio that was constructed. As you know, it's elevated. It was constructed out of railroad tie retaining walls with a gravel surface. There's a stairway that goes up from the parking lot, and there's a crosswalk that connects that to the building. And lately added was a stairway connecting the patio area up to this building here, out in the rear corner here. So we've noted on there that the things that we felt that were important, like that the railings need to be installed according to code, both on the stairway and around the elevated sitting area, the crosswalk, and concrete pads, both at the landing where it meets this site and it meets the driveway. One thing I want to note that's missing on the drawing, we have to add, is pedestrian crosswalk signs, but those will be added. And those circles that you see around there, those are the evergreen plantings that are in place, currently in place.
Joe, what about handicap requirements?
It's really not feasible to get a handicap access to the pad, and even if we did, the surface is not conducive for that. But there is a bench out in front of the Nathan's Softy store, Mr. Softy store there.
So are you saying that the review of that is addressed by what you just cited?
Right.
Okay,
Right.
so you don't need it on the enclosure of the
Correct. There is a
actual-
location where
Okay.
a table can be put on the sidewalk.
And there's no, I'm sorry, there's no lighting outside? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
All I see is
currently
the-
they have patio string lighting up. That's in place. I don't know if that's going to stay up, if that's a seasonal thing, or they're going to keep that up all year or not. It's kinda-
Lighting on the steps and so on.
No lighting on the steps.
Are there the solar?
If there are, John, I did not see them.
Last I
That's-
walked
that's-
by.
it's-
I
it's
think
ever-
there's
it's an
some
evolving
lights
thing.
there, yes.
What can I tell you?
I do think that's a code requirement
Yeah.
on exterior steps for a commercial space.
So there are, I believe, small lights there that light each tread, and they're solar lights. So I don't know how effective they'll be, but they are there. There is general lighting, so.
Yeah, there's a light right there, right in the parking lot.
Has a building permit been issued for this?
That's what I've been told, yes.
But we never, as a board, never approved that place.
That's correct.
So how could a building permit be approved?
That's,
I mean, this is my
that's, yeah,
observation.
I can't answer that question.
Who can?
I guess the building inspector.
Oh, okay.
John, just out of curiosity, do you know who did the work? Was it the tenant or the landlord?
I'm sorry, say that
Who
again.
did the work, the tenant or the landlord?
This is us.
The tenant.
That dash is
With
generally.
the landlord's permission?
Yes, I have
I would imagine
a
it's
written,
fence on
a
property
letter of
line,
permission
so-
from the landlord
Our
acknowledging
property's
it.
back here. Our property is the fence line and the edge of easement. See here, fence on property line. That's the three-person bench.
Did you see it?
Yeah.
It's a nice setup.
Yeah.
It is better.
We do have a note from Dan Ciarci, the town engineer, that they conducted a site visit. The 14-inch line was TV'd, and it all seemed to check out. They do want to add a paragraph to the resolution addressing that.
Has the town engineer signed off on this?
He just wants from his
Yeah,
memo.
He just did the sewer line.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the integrity of the whole project.
Well, I wouldn't, again, if you got a building permit, I would hope that it was done to all applicable codes. But I think Dan's gonna have to verify that out in the field, because
I have questions about a building permit that we haven't seen.
any other questions?
Joe, are there any construction drawings that cause this to be put in place?
No, it was constructed on site, no drawings.
All right, so the permit was issued after the construction was done, it's anything but what's in the field. Is that accurate?
That would be my understanding. Yeah, you know, I'm coming in after the fact.
I'm just trying to get the record complete, because we don't see any drawings of the improvements per se. This is basically a small site plan, so, without construction details. So I'm just trying to make sure I covered that base.
Yep.
Anything else?
I'm not going to vote for it.
Well, I think we have to, there's still a way to go here.
Well, we'll develop the resolution. Joe's going to put on the signs for next time.
Signs and I guess the solar lights.
All right, and we'll have to dig into the details.
And if you care to see more construction details, I'll attempt to obtain them.
I think yes.
Well, I mean, usually a building permit gets issued based on a set of drawings, and we don't see a set of drawings, so I'm not questioning what's out there. I'm just saying procedurally, we usually see something that we're now not seeing. So I don't know if we need to see it for the level of construction that's out there or not. It's a question I don't know the answer to be honest.
I'll attempt to obtain them. And you can answer that question when you can
Right.
review them.
Is Dan here? Dan Ciarcia?
I haven't seen it.
Is the wall, the sewer line, I want to imagine, is behind the wall, or is it under the?
It's under.
It's under.
Under. So I think there would be concerns if there was a failure out there.
Yeah, it's not we're not documenting anything here other than a footprint.
Right.
So I think there's a lot that's absent. So I'm not trying to be difficult. I just think we just don't have anything. So,
So we'll have to dig into the details.
no. Well, that might be, but this is the easement here. I think that's the pipe. It's a 14-inch pipe.
Right under that wall. So you want to make sure that wall's built correctly.
And that pipe is a transite pipe.
He's the engineer. I don't know who designed I think the last meeting we had, I think the owner had his, or the owner is the builder, if I remember correctly.
Get it removed from these.
That's about the sewer line.
Yeah.
That's not about the construction.
And then you should permit without any drawing.
All right, so we're gonna follow up.
I already did.
All right?
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Okay, next we have a town board referral. This is the Lake Osceola rezone, locations 3000 Navajo Street. This is a proposed zoning amendment to the Lake Osceola Planned Design District Overlay Zone to add property located at 3000 Navajo Street. And I want to thank everybody that was here last time. I see everybody here again. I think, as we made everybody aware last time, this is a work session, so this isn't the time where the public speaks, but we really appreciate the way everybody conducted themselves, and I hope you're getting the information you need off here. We did get some letters and memos, so again, any questions you have, please reach out to John and Robin in the planning department. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening. A little bit of confusion. I thought we were just here 2 weeks ago. I don't know if there's much more to discuss than if you have any questions regarding the nature of the matter before the town board at this point. It looks to extend what was the Osceola overlay district over to the property off of Navajo. We believe that the impetus behind and the idea behind doing the Osceola overlay district anyhow was to reinvigorate and revitalize that stretch of 6N along the lake. Unfortunately, the bottleneck in restoring that area, revitalizing that area, is not served with sewers. So there's been a degradation to the lake because of the runoff from the hill above the lake with failing septics, et cetera. The properties along the lake are also distressed and can't be repurposed or revitalized because of that bottleneck as well, which is the sewer. This project is offering and looking to put a sewer line in through that area, which is I think, a major a positive about the project. A lot of the other, there's going to be a deep dive in a lot of the different issues. I know there's some concerns about drainage, but as far as watershed, this is a different watershed than what's on the other side of, south side of Route 6. So it's not going to impact the properties, in particular, anything in Jefferson Village. It will not. Completely different watershed, completely different drainage district. All that being said, I think the applicant may also be amenable at some point in time to looking at what their problems may be over there and looking to address it as part of this project. But that's further on down the line. We believe that this is, if the Osceola overlay district and what was its intent and purposes is to be achieved, this is the opportunity for the town to see that those goals are achieved by bringing this property in, as it creates the critical mass to put in place the infrastructure that's necessary to revitalize that area. But I'm open to whatever questions you may have. I think.
I have a question. In your EAF, you indicated that there are 11 parcels involved in this extension. Are they all owned by the same entity, or are they different?
No, the original application was just for this parcel in particular, which is the 50 acres that are proposed to be developed. I think through the planning department staff, they suggested that rather than to have the gap, to have some continuity between what has already been designated within the overlay and the proposed extension to this property. We went through some of that. On the north side of Route 6N, there probably is a lot of restrictions as far as what can be developed, in the fact that it's very steep sloped on that portion of 6N, the property that is vacant on the north side of 6N. But I think it probably behooves the town to take a serious look at doing the overlay right through to this property.
So can I clarify a little bit? Right now, the application is for only this property to be included in the overlay district, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. Originally, there was some properties that were, the intervening properties between the current border and this property were included by the applicant. We asked that they be taken out for various reasons. And so the current application is just for the 50-acre piece that's the subject of the project.
Okay,
Right.
thanks.
So there is some document coordination that needs to happen before we get
Okay.
there. The applicant is aware of those issues and is working on it.
I have some comments I'd like to make. Unfortunately, I missed the first round of discussion earlier, but I do have some comments after having read the environmental assessment form and things of that sort. In one of the answers, it states that there was no comprehensive plan that was appropriate for this. I think the comprehensive plan does cover it. There are no specific impacts identified in the environmental assessment form. There's a whole pages of it that are completely blank. Nonetheless, we have a partial fiscal analysis, we have a partial traffic analysis, and we have some claim for financial benefits in the Jefferson Valley Hamlet area, in which it stated that that area is failing and that this overlay zone extension will have a positive impact on that community. Other than this particular 50-acre parcel, I believe there are very few pieces along the lake which are suitable for further development, regardless of whether sewers come in. There's an old public beach area that could be redeveloped. Victoria Z's, I think, is already on sewers, but they're a catering hall, and I don't know if there's much other opportunity there. The biggest problem I see so far, and I think that the town board needs to address this, is that there is no real environmental analysis of the impact on the lake itself. Developmental impacts on Lake Osceola have been severe, and I've been there for 40-plus years. I've lived just up the hill, and I've seen it. People have talked about the fact that you used to be able to drive your car on the lake when it froze over. But that's not the major problem over there. Over the years, the whole eastern side has silted in and has become much more shallow. And I've seen that personally, okay, where the inlet stream is, all the silt comes down, and it just dumps down there in the end. And I think that's a problem with the area-wide development surrounding Lake Osceola. Then you've got the outlet side, which contributes to the flooding that a lot of people on the shore itself have experienced. I don't think the installation of sewers is going to help with any of those particular problems. Another big issue I think that hasn't been addressed fully is the traffic impact. You've got impacts on East Main Street right now from the volume of traffic that comes in from the Taconic, makes the first left turn at the unsignaled intersection over there by the real estate building, and comes right down that road going up 6th Inn. Okay, there's a lot of traffic there already, and the biggest problem here is the cumulative impacts of all of these things that are going on. You've got a major housing development on the west side of East Main Street where Contractors Registry was. You've got the extension of the overlay zone and the particular project that is represented by that. And you've got the recycling transfer station all coming into that area. And from a planning standpoint, I can't see separating each of those projects and taking them one by one independent of the other. I think we need to recommend as our board back to the town board that they take a global view of everything that's on the table in Jefferson Valley right now in order to come up with a comprehensive solution and handling the impacts and mitigating them. And none of that's addressed in the documents I've seen. I've been associated with this area since the early 1960s. When I was a kid, we used to come up for the summers here. I remember when East Main Street in Shrub Oak and in Jefferson Valley was Route 6. Route 6 didn't exist. I remember going horseback riding on Mrs. Bartholomew's farm, where this project now is proposed to be, okay? I remember the Shrub Oak implementation plan of the early 1990s, which was going to transform Shrub Oak. And I think the Jefferson Valley area is facing the same challenges. I'm not saying that there are no benefits here, but I'm saying the analysis that we've got so far is woefully incomplete and really doesn't take the entire area into account. I think there are, again, it came to us from the town board. I think we've got to go back to them and say there are a lot of planning issues that are presented here that have to be dealt with. I think that the impacts have to be addressed on a global basis, not on an analysis of each property. I think the projects together will have a significant adverse environmental impact on Jefferson Valley, and I recommend that the board adopt, the town board take a positive declaration on this and require a full environmental assessment form, impact statement rather, an environmental impact statement to properly assess all of the impacts of this area.
May I respond to some of that? I don't disagree with you that you need probably take a view of the entire corridor. I think that's absolutely appropriate. I think once you start to do that and you dig deep in it, you're going to find out that this project actually has much more merit and a lot of merit in terms of the future of that corridor. Some of the issues that you talk about as far as traffic and the turn up to where the contractor's registered property is, a lot of that's pre-existing stuff that has to be addressed no matter whether this development comes in or this development never occurs. Quite frankly, the impact of this development on that, it would be, I think, marginal, number one. And number two is actually provides an opportunity to correct some of the problems that are present up there. You have pre-existing problems as far as drainage goes, sewer goes, traffic goes. All those things exist. but the town, those are not going away unless
I
the
know.
town makes a major investment in any of those areas, which is never going to happen, and you know it as well as I do. So you have a situation that hasn't gotten better over the time that you've been up there for years and years and years, and it pretends to deteriorate over the years as well. This is a project that has enough of a critical mass to have the town start to address those issues. I don't have any problem, and I don't think my client has any problem with doing a deep dive in that. But you have to understand how you set the legal infrastructure under which this application comes to you. It's not a straight up rezoning, which I think then would have a whole different procedural path. This is basically the first step in it, whether or not the overlay goes over this property, whether it's available to be used on this property. So you're asking for a EIS for this project to address all the problems in the entire corridor, which I think would be unfair, especially since it's at this time it's only to look at the overlay to be applied to the property, not that it's going to actually occur, because that's the second step in the process.
I know the steps.
Well, I'm just saying. Well, I'm saying so. A lot of the things that you are problems that you have are pre-existing problems that are never going to be addressed until a major investment in the corridor is made. And it's not going to come at the town. Town's not going to do it, and you know that. And the county's not going to do it, and neither is the state. So this is an opportunity to actually improve the entire area. As for instance, we had discussions. The applicant had discussions with George Roberta, who owns the lakefront, which is the biggest piece on the lakefront, which had a plan of development, which was actually a pretty nice plan of development. Never happened. It never happened because of sewers and unavailability of sewers. As far as stormwater drainage, you know as well as I do that there can't be any net increase off the site through the process, so that's all going to be self-contained. But that doesn't mean there isn't an opportunity to do off-site work as well, even in the watershed that's not part of this project, but in the Jefferson Valley portion. You got the Bogdanoff Pond, which needs some major work, and there's certain culverts that on the other side of Route 6 that needs major work. The thing is, I don't think that you're getting, and we would welcome a complete overview of the entire, all the projects in that area, because I quite frankly think that when you come down to it, I don't know that the contracted treasure site redevelopment provides much of a community contribution, and I don't think the garbage thing or the recycling does anything for the town, but I think this project actually does. So I don't mind the analysis. I think that you have to keep an open mind about it. To summarily say at this point that you feel that there's just adverse impacts on it, I think is somewhat a premature assessment.
I think what Aaron's saying, and I agree with him, is just like with the development on 202 near Lowe's, BJ's, the restaurant, the Walgreens. When this was done, we asked, especially with the traffic, to look at it holistically, right? And that was done. And I think that worked out well. And
The same thing.
yeah, it's the same. We want to look at it holistically.
I was there for all of that, so I believe that's absolutely true. And the thing is, with the sky, we had a lot of people, Chicken Little, the sky was going to fall and everything was going to collapse over then. It didn't happen. I'm not saying, I welcome the overall analysis of the corridor. I think that, once we do that, I just would like you to resist the conclusion that it's just going to have an adverse impact, which I don't think is necessarily
I don't think
the
anybody's
conclusion
saying
that you can
that.
reach.
I think you're reading too much into it.
Okay.
I think what he's saying is we want to make sure, again, we say it all the time, devil's in the details, right? We want to make
Absolutely.
sure anything we do, we make sure at the end of the day, everybody here isn't knocking on Aaron's door, right? Because it wasn't done right. So we want to make sure that we check and double check things, right? And it's worked in the past. Like you said, the whole Lowe's, right? It was going to be the end, and it works very well. The development is beautiful. The whole area looks very nice right now, and it works very well. we want to make sure that any development is responsible, right? That's our goal here, is responsible development.
Absolutely, I think you guys do more, I'm not patronizing you on doing,
Yeah.
I think you guys do a marvelous job. I welcome that analysis, in terms of this corridor and the three major projects that you have up there. I think once you do that analysis, you'll see that this project actually adds something and provides to the community what the other projects may not.
But I think we also want to say, and Aaron asked the question, is there any other possibilities for redevelopment once these sewers go in? Is there anything else in the area? And I think that should be looked at.
Well, when we've done the analysis, again, if you go to the shoreline of Lake Osceola, some of that, like the old, which is now George Roberta's property, and some of the other, substandard properties over there, I think this does provide an opportunity, but for an enhanced, hamlet area. Other than that, there's some environmental restrictions on the properties to the north of 6N.
The overlay zone, when it was first created for Jefferson Valley, this document did delve into growth-inducing impacts, and it did cover development if sewers were available. So that those numbers are actually in there for the overlay district, the borders of what is described in here. So you have benefit of that at your fingertips.
Michael, what aspects of this project either benefit from or would require it being part of the overlay district?
I'm sorry.
So we're talking about including this in the overlay
Yes.
district. Why? Why
Well,
exactly?
I think the idea was this was a project that was conceived as a multifamily common housing project with a recreational component, and so that's what the applicant wants to pursue with this property. At one time, I think there was they need sewers to do that. And the belief was that what would be the compelling reason for the town to take a serious look at it is that whole corridor has always been a sore spot in terms of existing conditions, what it's going to hold for the future, everything else. And I know as supervisors, we always had this dilemma: what do we do about that whole corridor? Because you had Willie's Bar, you had the recreational site on you had the Mount Kisco Medical Group up there for a while, which was a new development. But studying that whole area, you came up to the conclusion that there's a lot of very small, I guess must have been summer bungalow type lots. So they're very small lots, and there is the soft costs for just coming in for redevelopment, not to do the redevelopment, but just to get approvals for redevelopment, would be too expensive for the lot. So I know I discussed it with the planning when I was supervisor, to do kind of a master plan for that area so you can do plug and play, so we could at least provide a basis for someone to come in and maybe redevelop the property and revitalize that corridor. We also had traffic problems. We had a woman that was killed, hit and run up there at one point in time. And we know from our experience in planning, and John can verify, that it's very difficult to control speed, but when you create a hamlet-like atmosphere like you have in East Main Street and Shrub Oak, it's an actual traffic calming device. So the thing is that if you put sidewalks in, a streetscape through that 6N corridor, you would probably address the problem. There are a lot of structural and infrastructural issues in that whole corridor that have to be addressed. And the problem is you have no project that has enough gravitas to do it. So this actually provides an opportunity to have, but you have to, the sacrifices, you have to give up some density in order to do that. So you have an applicant that's coming in and saying, look, I want to develop my property as such, but I know by doing so, I can make a contribution to the town, which it's a compelling reason for the town to take a real hard look at it. I think some of the other projects that you have up there lack that nexus to providing some community benefit. I think when you get through the traffic analysis, as for instance, you just had the Underhill Farms up here. I think Underhill Farms is 149 units on 13 acres on an intersection where it's probably the entrance is a couple hundred feet from the main intersection. This is 242 units on 50 acres with 2 access points, one on Navajo and one to 6N. So, you know, you have certain, you know, the problems that you have or have experienced in past developments doesn't even exist here. And quite frankly, when you get into dig deep, and you've done it before, when you get into the traffic counts aren't that bad, even for 242 units, they're not that bad.
And not to cut you off, but I think we've said it many times here, we look at every property like it's a fingerprint. Not one is the same, right? So we got to approach it very different.
Yeah, no, I hope I addressed the reason why, you know, it's a project that the both is looking for the developer to do, but I think is also willing to make a major contribution towards an area of town that really needs a shot in the arm. And I think that when Lowe's is a perfect example. I mean, that portion of town was ailing for a long period of time. And it was always, what do you do with, you know, White's was there, you had BJ's, but BJ's and Staples didn't do it, so, you know, you needed something, and you got it, and you build it, they will come, it worked out well. You know, the Chicken Little's prognostications as to disaster over there, and, you know, the traffic was a little tough at first, but they figured it all out, and it worked well. But that's, you know, I trust you guys in your analysis. And we're willing to do it, and we're willing to, you know, I think it's a project that has merit and worth your while, and I think that to recommend that, you know, it goes to the next step, whatever that may be.
I do want to read two memos. One went to the town board from the Yorktown Conservation Board, dated June 18th. Excuse my reading technique here. At the June 17th, 2024 Conservation Board meeting, the board discussed the proposed extension into the Jefferson Valley Overlay District. Our comments are below. Lake Osceola and adjacent wetlands. The area of the proposed extension on the Creative Living Strait encompasses the wetlands and stream that feed into Lake Osceola. Developing 250-plus units would greatly add to the amount of impervious surface, resulting in an adverse impact on water quality entering Lake Osceola. During heavy rainfall events, example July 2023 storm, which are occurring more frequently, Lake Osceola water levels rose and flooded backyards and homes adjacent to the lake and East Main Street. More sediment load into the lake could result in further flooding issues. They go on to traffic. One of the benefits of the overlay zone was to create a greater walkable environments in the Jefferson Valley hamlet. Traffic is already heavy along East Main Street. Adding to that volume would further reduce the ability of the people to safely walk in that area. The study does not address the traffic exiting the Taconic Parkway and turning onto East Main Street at the unsignaled left turn before Lee Boulevard. This is often backed up to the traffic light at Route 6 and the Taconic. Traffic congestion increases vehicle emissions and degrades ambient air quality. To the Jefferson Valley hamlet in that area. The Jefferson Valley hamlet is experiencing development pressures from many sides. Taking each proposal independently without considering the total impact of the proposals combined does not allow for the overall environmental impacts to this area to be considered. The proposed development of the former contractor's register site to the west, the proposed transfer station access from Navajo Street, in addition to the creating living in the east, the increased use of Jefferson Valley Hamlet Shopping District, and the development of the solar farm on the former Hill property were all evaluated independently and haphazardly, without a coordinated approach to addressing all the cumulative impacts in the area. The adverse environmental impacts have not been adequately addressed, and we do not support the rezoning. This is from the Conservation Board. I do also want to read a memo to the Planning Board from the Planning Department dated June 24th, 2024. Subject is Lake Osceola rezone. Excuse me. The Planning Department reviewed the submitted materials for the proposed Lake Osceola District extension and have enumerated the following planning issues that should be considered by the Planning Board to assist the Town Board in making a confident and informed decision. 1. Using 360 residential units to calculate the economic impacts of the project is misleading, as the previously submitted site plans proposed 254 units. Economic impacts were calculated using the 360 residential units, projected school-age children, taxes generated, and school district benefits are all misleading as they were calculated using 360 units, not 254. 3, traffic study was calculated using 254 units, inconsistent with the economic impact calculations. 4, how was the traffic data obtained? Was any data actually collected in the field? 5, Saturday peak hour is 430 total trips. This number can potentially have a large impact on the traffic flow in the area. Are these initial recommendations sufficient? 6, not all environmental data to determine impacts of the, what's that? Oh, not enough environmental impact data to determine the impacts of the rezone, wetlands, stormwater, etc. 7, is the overall level of the research provided enough to make an informed recommendation to the town board? 8, the town board has declared intent to act as lead agency. The planning board should suggest that they undergo further seeker review during the site plan review process. The applicant, the town board, and the town engineer were CC'd, and that's from our planning department to the planning board. So those are the 2 members we have at this point.
Yeah, again, I just reiterate that a lot of the issues are brought up by the Conservation Board. Obviously, most of them are pre-existing issues that need to be addressed regardless of this site and this development, especially with stormwater, et cetera. But again, those issues are looking for major investment, major infrastructure investment, which is not going to happen. You have an opportunity here for a project that probably will ameliorate a lot of those existing issues, and that's the bottom line. And it's not unusual that existing municipal issues need to be addressed through the private sector and development, because otherwise they're never addressed at all. And we think that again, in fairness to the people that have invested in it, I've lived in that area, and are stymied because of some of the pre-existing environmental issues, this is an opportunity to properly address them. So we understand further analysis needed to be done. We're trying to abide by the legal infrastructure which you have in place, which is this is a multi-step process. First the overlay, then whether it's included, and then your site plan. So there's different levels of analysis that you kind of
Right.
laid.
And I think we all understand that. I think the bigger picture here is, at least as one member of the board, we want to look at it more holistically. And again, I've seen governments do great things with funding. So maybe there's parts that the town should be doing and the developer should be doing. And maybe you got to put all these pieces together in one,
I don't disagree.
to come up with those solutions.
No, I
Because the
think-
roadway and, some of the traffic issues there, again, very different than Underhill in that area. But I think they've all got to get looked at, and we have to look at them holistically to do the right thing.
We're charged with
Right. Reporting to the
getting a
board.
memo back to the town board.
Right.
Right? So maybe we should put one together. I mean, you heard my concerns. I think the global issue to me is a big one that the town board needs to look at this stage.
Yep. Anybody else?
Well, the opportunity, the development creates an opportunity to address some of your concerns.
Yes.
Some of the issues that are caused by either neglect, perhaps, or poor planning, or poor whatever it might be. And so I think rather than just throwing up the reasons why we can't, we should see what are the benefits of things that could be done to address the bad water levels around the lake that everything's been suffering from. This should be an opportunity.
I don't disagree with you, but some of those things haven't been addressed. They should be. And under seeker, I don't believe that, you can use benefits of a project to wipe out any negative impacts. Okay, you've got to consider those too. I'm hoping that we can come up with a good unified plan for the area that will accomplish things for the benefit of the community down there without the adverse impacts. So, but I don't see enough at this point in the analysis to support that. I see the benefits primarily, but not so much what are the impacts that need to be addressed or mitigated or dealt with. Again, my main concern is the overall things that are going on there. you know, we can't take one without looking at the others, so.
Yeah, if I may, I don't want to make the presumption that it's all benefits, but I don't want you to make the presumption that it's all negatives. There is obviously, any time you move something or create something or make it, you know, you put something in place, there's an impact. And we would love to address them.
Yeah.
But we think that also with this is to be cognizant of the fact that it is a major opportunity for the town to address an area that had been a dilemma for the town for decades. I think you putting up our heads together on this thing, we can come up. I think maybe a global approach to the area is fine. I think once you do that, you'll find that the wisdom in this project.
That may very well be true, and that needs to be tested as we go forward. But again, we have to now we're charged with coming back with some advice and a memo on what we think are planning issues raised here, going back to the town board.
And I appreciate that. I just don't want you to lose sight of the fact that there are benefits or positive,
I know.
fallout of this type of thing.
I don't think anybody's saying otherwise.
Listen, I worked on a sewer plant for that area 30 years ago.
Yeah.
I know that.
Well, it's my job to just make sure that I elucidate you on all the issues, not just some.
All right, so John, we'll start working on a memo that we can get to the board. We can circulate it for any comments and concerns.
My only comment is, I firmly believe that a comprehensive review is what's needed here. But you've got different property owners, some of them the major players in this issue. How do we either invite them or compel them to come before us to be inclusive in this comprehensive review? If they're...
It worked down at the BJ's area.
No, I understand, but you'd think that there's an incentive to do that. It's to their benefit to be part of the solution, but I'm saying in the absence of somebody's participation, that doesn't mean that we still shouldn't have that comprehensive review, and I'd like it to be with their participation. Is there some way we can
I think
try to make that happen sooner rather than later?
If I may, I think that, since basically at this point, you're really just a referral board, right?
Yeah.
Well, right now, I'm looking down the road a little bit,
Yeah,
though.
so I think, look, having been in the shoes of being a member of the town board at one point, I think that's, it's really up to them to kind of to bring the players together. And I think they have to make some decisions as to which direct, they have to have an overview of the whole,
We can tell them.
We can give them our memo with what
Right.
we recommend, and then
Yeah, and I think, but I think that has merit. I absolutely do, because, again, some of the issues exist and will
Yes.
always exist and never go away, and you'll still be scratching your head how to figure it out
I know.
decades from now.
I know.
So you have to, you have opportunities here, and where the contribution comes from and who it comes from,
Yeah.
and in what form it comes, is something that's really an opportunity for the whole town.
Okay.
Okay, we'll get that going. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
See what scratching our heads did for us? Okay, next we have the At-Track Recycling Facility. This is a discussion of a site plan and special use permit. Location 76 Route 6.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Jacqueline Cohen. I'm an associate at the law firm Zarin & Steinmetz. I am here tonight on behalf of the applicant, 76 Route 6 Holdings. And here with me tonight is Pat Cardellini from 76 Route 6 Holdings, as well as Margaret McManus from Beatty & Watson, the project engineer. So we are back before your board tonight regarding the proposal for the recycling facility at 76 Route 6. And as you may know, last month we were before the ZBA on the question of whether a 200-foot or a 100-foot setback applied to the eastern boundary line that borders a property in the town of Somers. The ZBA opined that a 200-foot setback does apply and that the variance would be required from that boundary line with the proposed layout of the project. And so our team did look at other options for other layouts on the property and determined that we could move the recycling facility to the southern portion of the property. And and that would comply with the setback regulations based on the opinion of the ZBA. However, as we will show, this option is inferior to the proposed layout because of the proximity to Route 6, as well as the reduced screening that this option would provide. So based on that, we are going to be pursuing the area variance from the ZBA for the currently proposed layout, which is the one to the right here. And the ZBA is commencing its review of the area variance this week. This Thursday, it is on the agenda. And so for that reason, we are here tonight to get your board's take on both options, as well as your endorsement of the proposed layout. And again, this is an as-of-right use, and it is surrounded by similar uses. Therefore, it is an appropriate use of the property. The question really is where on the property is the best location for this project. And ultimately, we are asking that your board issue a recommendation to the ZBA to grant the variance for the setback from the eastern side yard setback. Now, before we go into discussions of the layouts, we did want to address some of the project operations just to clarify some misunderstandings of the project and to give a clear picture of what is going to be happening at this facility, as well as to address some concerns from the public regarding potential impacts, including noise and smell. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Pat Cardellami to take you through some of the project operations.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
So I wanted to walk you guys through some of the operations of the facility, and that way it would work with the layout that we were proposing to the ZBA and as well as to you previously. So all the entrance would be entered, all the trucks would enter off of Navajo Road, making, if we're coming from Jefferson Valley, you'd be making the right, you're losing the right turning lane onto Navajo and then into the property. Anything coming from the Mayapack side down would be making the right onto Navajo and again, the right onto the property. At the beginning of the property, you'll see a little scale house that'll be there. That's where trucks will weigh in and out if they're going to be using the facility. Any trucks will then go up to the facility and enter the facility where they'll be directed to which bay they would go into the dump. There will be fast-acting doors that'll open and close in between 8 and 12 seconds is what they're estimated to do. So there will be relatively no dust coming out of those doors because the doors will only be open for entering and exiting of trucks. With regards to that, on the bottom portion where the parking lot is, that's where vehicles will be parked. That will be our vehicles that will leave the facility during the day and come back after they're done with their routes. The operation of the facility itself, like I said, everything will be contained inside the facility. So there will be construction debris dumped in one side and recycling dumped in another side, and that material will be processed and loaded out into bigger trucks all inside the facility. Nothing will be done outside. The only thing we are requesting for outside is outdoor storage, which will be of empty containers that will be used to be filled later on inside the facility. The facility will be regulated by the Westchester County Solid Waste Commission as well as the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. It requires permitting from both agencies. The Department of Environmental Conservation, who regulates the use of recycling centers and transfer stations, it's a very lengthy, in-depth process to get a permit for them. They review noise, dust, they do routine inspections, and the permits are rigorously inspected all year long, and every year it has to be reapplied for. They also do noise studies. So they will do noise studies at every end of the property. So that you'll be able to get noise studies from before the facility is operated, while the facility is operating, and during the operation of the facility as well. So the layout that we're proposing, like was explained, is what we think is the best. It's the furthest away from anything that we think will have an impact on anybody, and that's why we're hoping to put it there.
What's the largest size truck that'll fit inside this facility?
So the largest size truck would be a trailer, which would be a 53-foot trailer would go inside the building. The building's 100 feet long width-wise, so it would go into there.
So inside the building, how's that going to work?
So the trucks would back into the building. The trailers where we have them.
I don't mean to cut you off. Do you have a layout of the inside of the building?
I don't think we have a layout of the inside of the building yet. No, we
So-
don't have allowed, I could give you a general idea of what we envision.
You got a tractor trailer that's gonna back up or a roll-off. They're
Yep.
gonna be able to lift that all the way up, dump everything out. That door will be closed during this.
Correct.
So there's not gonna be the slamming of the gates.
No.
You're saying none of that's gonna take place outside?
None of that will take place inside.
What happens
so-
if that starts happening outside?
So it will not. The DEC also will regulate that as well. So, and that'll be something that'll be maintained. So this building is 100 feet, it's 100 feet deep. Okay, so the way the building is gonna be, the longest truck that will be dumping in the building is a roll-off truck. All right, they're relatively 35 feet long. So you have a lot of space between the door and the back of the building where the trucks would be dumping, that would not happen. Everything will be done inside the building.
How's that gonna happen in that building? Are they gonna be able to turn around in the building?
No,
Are
they do
gonna
not
drive
turn around in
one
the
door,
building.
They're gonna back into that?
Correct. So they would come in, they would loop in, and they would back into the building here and then pull out.
Do you have any demonstration of that?
I know we
From
do
the
on other
engineer?
plans of turn radiuses. I don't know if we have it with us tonight, though.
Well, let me just make a statement.
Yes.
If anybody wants to know what kind of an operation this is gonna be, you can say all you want about this and that. All they have to do is go on Route 100, and there's a transfer station there that is exactly like what you plan. You stay there for 1 or 2 hours and see what this place will be like in 10, once they open up. You can't put lipstick on a pig. It's a transfer station, it's garbage, it's mice, it's insects, it's everything you can think of.
How many?
So let me just address
I didn't
that
wanna
real quick.
interrupt you,
So
Will.
there's,
I didn't mean to interrupt
sorry.
you. Excuse me? I didn't mean to interrupt you, I had a question.
Oh, okay.
Not of you. How
I'm
many,
irritated.
how many trucks can that large building accommodate at one time?
So as of right now, for the construction debris side, we have 2 large doors and 1 small door, so 3 trucks. And the recycling center side, there'd be 2 large doors for trucks to go in there. So at any given time, there could be 5 trucks inside the building.
So they dump the stuff in, and then how does it get out?
Then trailers will back into the building. There'll be a spot for a trailer to back in, and the trailer will get loaded inside the building, and then the material will come out. So like I said, that's why nothing will be done outside of the building. And to answer your question in regards to the facility in Somers, the facility in Somers actually has an approval from the DEC where they have to take everything inside, and they haven't done that yet. So it's a little bit different of what's going to be going on there and what is currently going on there. They went through a whole rigorous redo with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. So that facility will completely be redone whenever they comply with the rules and regulations of the DEC.
So, just to go back to what you said now and what you said earlier, so the DEC has a very rigorous inspection process, as this other area does, and they're just not complying with it.
Well, they just went through the process to redo the facility. The facility's been there for, I would say, 50 years.
But a yearly permit either way, right?
Correct.
So
And they
they'll-
just got an approval to get it renewed, and they're going in the process of reconstructing the facility.
So the previous permit for that facility, what did that say in that permit?
I
You know?
don't have a copy of the permit, but I know the new updated one, they have to do a lot of renovations.
So how are you gonna, what kind of machine are you gonna use to load the product into the trucks in the inside?
So inside, there'll be an excavator and a wheel loader that will load it into the bigger trucks that will then take it out.
And what's the height of this building again?
So on average, I think it's 35 feet.
And free span inside, nothing's gonna get in the way of machinery like that?
Correct.
I wanted to go back to the site plan at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions about the trucks while we're on that topic. You said that one of the trailers is a 53-foot trailer?
Correct.
And with the cab, how long is the total length?
It's probably about 60, what was it, 67? Yeah, those are the ones that are leaving the facility.
All right, so that truck will stay inside the facility and get loaded?
Correct.
From the material brought in by the other trucks?
Correct.
The other trucks that are coming in are what size?
They're about, I would say, 30 to 35 feet, depending on
So those are
which
the
truck.
roll-offs?
Those are roll-offs, and there will be garbage trucks with recycling. There's no garbage going to be accepted at this facility.
So the roll-off truck is, you said 35 feet? Is
Yes,
that-
roughly 35
That's
feet.
inclusive of the cab?
Correct.
Okay. So the 35-foot trucks are the ones that'll be pulling in, backing in, unloading, and then the machinery inside the building will be loading the tractor trailers?
Correct.
And then those will be leaving the site?
Correct.
I got it, okay.
You may have said this already, what are the hours of operation?
Again, those will be dictated by the DEC. What we're proposing is Monday through Friday 6 to 6, and then Saturday 6 to, I think we were posting 3, or was it 6 to 6? I forget exactly. I think it was
6
to
a.m.?
3. Yeah, 6 a.m. But again, that'll be dictated by the DEC, what they accept, as well as the planning board and the town board.
And is the facility commercial only, or could a residential person bring in a heap of metal that they have?
It's open to anybody.
So I can get rid of my sheetrock.
Yep. Anybody can bring anything there. It's open to the public.
So some of your trucks will be gathering recycling materials and bringing it to the facility?
Correct.
Are they different from the trucks that are doing the regular household pickup?
Yes, they vary. Sometimes they do garbage some days, sometimes they do recycling the other days, but the trucks are cleaned out.
So you will have a number of the maximum trucks that you'll need to perform the operation, including the recycling and the household pickup?
Correct. And then again, limits of what can be disposed of here will again be regulated by the DC. How many trucks can come in, how much tonnage can come in, how much tonnage can go out. That'll also be regulated. So it's not like you're just going to on any day fill this building with 100,000 yards of construction debris and too bad. The DEC limits what we can and cannot bring out. And also if we bring too much tonnage in one day or the building is too full, they will not allow us to open and bring any more tonnage in.
And is your facility, if somebody arrived with a bunch of copper gutter, are they paying to dispose of that, or are you paying them to reclaim it?
It varies.
So are you paying per pound?
It varies. It varies on how much, what the market is. It
But
all
just a simple
depends.
transaction, are they paying to dispose of it, or are you going to pay them to bring it in?
Most of the process of the facility will be paid to us.
Parking area that's in the front, is that going to be exclusively for the trucks that are utilizing this facility, or will there be trucks stored here that do normal household garbage?
So those are exclusively for our operations. They're not going to be trucks. Well, our trucks will obviously be using the facility as well, but that'll be for our vehicles because our office will be moved here as well. So the building will contain our office, our maintenance shop, the C&D transfer side, and the recycling side. So it'll have 4 parts, the building in total. The parking lot that is down below. This property, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, though it starts up high, dips down to the parking lot, and comes back up to level again. So that parking lot is roughly, I think, 24, 25 feet actually below Route 6. So that's where the trucks will be parked overnight below Route 6.
No, but my concern was that there were vehicles going to be parked there. In an earlier presentation, I thought I heard somebody say that there were vehicles that were going to be parked there that were not part of this recycling effort, but would be used to pick up household garbage. That would bring it to another location, but the trucks would return here for storage. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
Okay.
And you said something about maintenance. Is it maintenance for the equipment, or is it vehicle maintenance too?
Both.
So it's not only a recycling facility, it's going to be a maintenance, like a garage.
Yes, so the way the building is proposed, right here, there would be a 2-story office. There would be a 2-bay maintenance garage here. There would be a 4-bay construction debris recycling center, and there would be a 2-bay recycling center here, as well as a loading dock for outbound recycling material.
I got to be honest, on my end, just as one person on the board, I don't have enough information how this is going to work to make any determination, because I don't know which would work better. I'll be frank. It's 2 different sized buildings. It's a different layout. We don't know how the inside's going to work. I want to see how the traffic's going to move through there, and I don't think we have any information. And honestly, I'd like to go see this Somers facility.
Before
You go
we-
see, you have a whole
Somers,
different
I got-
opinion, boy, let me tell you. Just gotta go over there and see the mess they make.
So if I may,
Can I address the question to the site plan itself? You've got alternative number 2, in which you flip the building in the parking lot. And you show a setback of 112 feet, looks like from Route 6?
yes.
What's the zone of the area immediately to the south of that spot?
So the zone is a residential district, but this building, so the frontage, this does not adjoin a residential district. So it's a 75-foot setback.
Well, that's my question. Does Route 6 change the setback requirements because of Route 6 being there, and we don't have to worry about 200 feet?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
But I think we'll have to look into that, but she's correct on its face that it's 75 without answering that question.
But if I may, this is our alternative option, and we produced this option to show, based on, so our preferred option does require that variance that we've talked about before, from the 200-foot setback on the eastern boundary. And here, we're showing another option where we could essentially put this down here, and even if the zoning code did not allow or did require a 200-foot setback there, you would still need a variance. And so what we're showing here is our preferred option. There's approximately 574 feet from the building to Route 6. That's all, most of that vegetation, over 500 feet, is going to remain. So you're going to have a vegetative buffer, plus the topography of the area is going to allow for a buffer to screen the facility from Route 6 and from the residential homes on Gay Ridge Road. Whereas here, if you're putting the building down on the southern side of the property, you're losing all of the dense vegetative buffer. Additionally, you're encroaching more into the wetland buffers in that area. And so this option over here shows the least disturbance possible while still accommodating that as of right use.
And I'm sure you saw one of the prior presentations. We also have, a development proposed with an overlay zone on your neighboring property. Where are those buildings going to be? I'd really like to see that overlaid on this.
That's
Yeah, so,
500,000 feet away.
They're accommodating the 200-foot setback from the rear property.
no, I'm talking about the Navajo Fields.
Yeah, that's up here. No,
That's right here.
yeah, I don't know.
So it's going to be right
And
at
this
the top.
does accommodate the 200-foot
Right.
setback.
I'm sorry?
It accommodates the 200-foot setback from that property.
No, I'm talking about, all right, so you represent the setback, but what is the distance? You show 500 to homes across the other side of Route 6, 396. Where are those, again, this is part of what we just said earlier.
Yeah.
Where we have to look at this holistically.
Yeah.
One other question.
Was there a question?
In your
The
alternate
question, I think, is if you overlaid the project that was here immediately before you, what would the dimension that you would have to the nearest resident in that case, not the 984, what would that come down to? Significantly less is part of the answer, but you'd have to actually do the measurements. I know you have the 200-foot setback,
Right, so.
but you're representing, what you're doing here is you're representing
Yes.
distances to the nearest residents.
Correct.
They're wondering if you put the proposed development, what would that distance be?
Let's assume there's a 50-foot setback.
So it'd be 250 feet.
It would be 250.
I just, as one member of the board, I need more information.
Yes, and also we need to, how much these trailers, they pull 40 ton? What are our weight limits on our boats? That's a big thing. I know when I was driving the trailer, I was carrying 45 tons sometimes 50 ton.
Well, New York State Road is designed for that kind of traffic.
Yeah.
It's going to be Navajo or any other ways
absolutely.
they get there.
But if we have a 10, let's say on Gomez Street, if we have a 10 ton weight limit, how are these guys gonna get to the job?
Yeah.
It'll be using Route 6. Route 6 is going to be the main thoroughfare to get everywhere it's supposed to
Have
go.
roads leading into Route 6.
I understand. So
somehow.
most of the
Yeah,
traffic will be
don't
coming,
exist.
all of the traffic to the facility will be coming from 6 or 6N. Those are the two places that the majority of the traffic will be coming from.
Well, my suggestion is that the board takes a walk over to Route 100 and see what that facility is like.
If you're going to do that, I would suggest you visit other facilities as well. There's one in Mamaroneck that is similar to this. That is, there's one in Beacon.
Isn't in Yorktown.
Yeah, so I,
Route 100 is right close by.
yeah, I would suggest that there's other facilities that are a lot,
if you
You want to produce
will be a
list?
lot more comparable.
Produce a list of
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
suggestions around the county and.
Especially one's more comparable, I will, because that one takes solid waste. Ours will not.
All right, so if you could get us that list,
Yes.
we'll conduct some site visits. Also, if we can get the information on the turning radiuses, the equipment, how that's going to work in that building, because I really want to see that. And I think we need details on that, and how the turning radiuses of this equipment, inside and outside.
No problem.
So I would just ask, so at one point, so we are going to the ZBA this Thursday, and we are starting the variance review with them.
Yep.
We know they will refer the application to your board for a recommendation based on that. And I guess our question is, what sort of information do you need in order to make your recommendation?
I think we have to, one, as you heard earlier with that other application, we have to look at it holistically. So we're going to definitely want to see how that other proposed development is going to be laid out on this. And I'm sure that could be easily done.
Yeah.
We're going to want to see not only the details inside the building, right, and I think also the construction of the building. Is it going to be soundproof? You know, is it going to be made of completely metal? And I think everybody here is going to want to hear those answers. Turning radiuses, are you know, how is this equipment going to run inside? Are you using electric loaders so that it's, you know, again, when the largest piece of equipment that you see come in, you get a roll-off come in, how is that going to work, right? We need to see these things.
We gotta find
For
the dump
both.
height too. The dump height when
Well, that would be,
50-foot
yeah,
trailer
all those
It
details.
picks us up in the air, puts the ceiling a little bit.
Well, that's why we need the details of the building.
Do they come under the zoning for 32-foot top, you know, whatever it is? I know when you build a house, you can't come more than 32 feet high.
Yeah, well, we can check that.
So we have to check all that out.
Mhm.
I have a question on your alternative plan. The parking lot that you're showing appears to be with a setback of 100 feet to the property line from the easterly side of that. Is that something that you'll need a variance for as well from the zoning board?
The setbacks are to the building. There
Okay.
is a 50-foot buffer requirement between
Okay.
the property line and parking areas.
So there'll be no building, so that'll all be trucks that are going to be within 100 feet of the residential area?
Correct.
Okay.
And one last thing, is there possible that we can get a copy of the DEC permit in Somers,
Right.
just so we can get?
Well, yeah, I was going to suggest that we can develop a list, but what I want to remind the board is that when you support a variance, you've done a good deep dive into it to understand what is the best layout and alternative. And I don't think
We're not there yet.
I don't think you're there yet. I think you need a lot more information, such as the DEC information, to understand the parameters of the project. The alternative layout, I don't know that you've looked at in depth to see if that can be tweaked a little bit to make it possibly the better alternative. I don't think we've gone through that quite yet. There are wetland impacts in either of the alternatives, so I think, for instance, the footprint of alternative 2 can be moved around a little bit to enhance its operational quality, so to speak. So I think there's some other things that need to happen here for you to actually make a recommendation to the board, to the zoning board, which will then come back to you with a variance that you are willing to support that layout.
Right.
I don't think you have that
Right.
yet.
Yeah, I agree with you, John. I think our role in this case, despite what the applicant is asking us to do, is not to come down on either side, but to basically point out, again, planning issues with these issues that they need to consider in dealing with the variance. I mean, that's what we should do. I agree with you. I don't think we should endorse one or the other at this point.
Yeah, and I'm also suggesting that it's not been the practice of the board to support a variance without knowing all of that as well.
No, I don't think anybody's ready to do that.
So, yeah, I think,
Right.
yeah.
All right, so we'll work up a list of things we're going to want to see, and through the planning department, we'll get those to you. All right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Tucker.
All right, next, number 12, Nantucket Sound Sons LLC. This is a discussion about amended site plan, location 385 Kear Street.
Good evening again. Joseph Thompson, architect representing the property owner for Nantucket Sounds, the Kear Street building. As continued discussion on the issues in the proposed amendments to the site plan that we've reviewed with the board numerous times now. As an update, a meeting was held at the property where the units were checked for sound, which were very quiet, almost inaudible compared to the surrounding ambient noise levels, I would argue. So I don't believe that there's any issue there from the review that was done. What we did take away from that meeting is that the applicant's willing to make a sincere effort to try to put his best foot forward with his efforts to finish up the property, finish the landscaping, and try to go above and beyond with some screening measures. We identified some additional opportunities where the electrical panels could potentially have removable screens to hide them from view, and also to shield what could be the potential future propane tank pad location. So I think some good things came out of that meeting, and the applicant's prepared to implement those so that the board can see them and review them if the board will allow that progress to continue. So I think we were just asked here tonight just to provide an update. Some of those items that I just discussed, they're in the process of being updated on the site plan. That's not complete yet, but that is something that we can provide to the board once it's ready from the engineer. And I guess discuss all this further with the board at your discretion.
Anybody want to start off?
Yeah, you.
Me?
Yeah.
So I was at the site visit, and I did get to go inside the building, and I will tell you, it's a beautiful building. It really is. It's quite stunning from inside. We did turn the units on, listen from inside the building and outside. It was extremely quiet. Again, as I stated out in the field, and I'll state again, I think as a board in whole, we're very, very concerned about things taking place in the field and approvals that have gone through lengthy processes, conducted multiple site visits. We worked through this process, and at the end, changes are made. Again, we just don't know about it. I do, however, and I felt very strongly in the beginning about this, about these units going to the top. I am concerned as there is a restaurant now proposed in the basement. And I want to make sure that whatever equipment goes in, I said the same thing with the Underhill Farm. When you do cooking, there's massive vents and massive equipment that gets associated with that. What I want to make sure is, from our board perspective, and we've been consistent with this, I know it's a real pet peeve of the planning director, John Tegeter. It makes them nuts, because we haven't taken missteps in the past with approvals. We want to make sure that doesn't happen again. I am quite convinced that these units can be screened. I also do think there's a lot more improvements that can be made. And again, I'm not from Missouri, but I'm from Missouri. I need to be shown. So I would want to see where any proposed equipment, vents, ducts, or otherwise from downstairs, how that would be put in place, because I think that would be a lot worse. My mother used to tell me, don't cut your nose to spite your face. That we would not want to see on the outside of the building. That would have to go away. The electrical equipment, I think there's ways to screen that. The tank, as we drove in, coming down the hill, the first thing you saw was that dumpster. Now, we know that's not a permanent fixture, but whatever you did propose there, just like your beautiful building, right? You're not going to want to see a smack in the face to that building every time you come down the hill. It's just, as one member of this board, I need to see it. I need to see it. We talked about putting other landscaping, planters, other things on top where the residents would sit. We talked about how things could be treated downstairs. We talked about calling New York State DOT about the sidewalk area. I think there's a lot that can be done to further enhance this project. But again, I was very impressed with the building itself, the construction of it, the architecture inside and out. And we don't want to see that get blown up by this. And again, just as one member of the board, I want to see how you're going to make that work. But I'm up for options at this point.
Fully agree. And so our return here might even be a little bit premature because the site plan is not updated yet.
Yeah.
But we were asked to come for an update. I think by the next meeting, we will have that site plan in place. We will also have, the tenant is in the process of hiring a mechanical engineer to lay out the roof and all the equipment. So we'll have a diagram of that as well, I believe, by the next agenda. we can have that as a submittal that's required prior to coming back to the board, so it's available for review. But I don't foresee any issues with being able to locate that makeup air at the top of the roof, nor all the exhaust duct penetrations. There's some current exhaust that will need to be moved to clear the way for it, but that can be done.
Well, before
So
we get
we'll
ahead
let
of
that out.
ourselves, and I
Yeah.
don't mean to cut you off, I'm one vote on the board.
Sure.
There's 4 other members. So we need to, I want you to hear from everybody, because I'm just one person.
Understood?
I have a problem with now legalizing the cooling units where they are, as opposed to where they were supposed to be. I have no particular problems with having to accommodate changes in tenancies and equipment that might need to go in with that. So I would like the 2 things at least to be presented in a way that they can be separated so that we can deal with them in that manner.
It's me, huh? You said that you were working on a layout for equipment that was going to go on the roof of the restaurant. Is that accurate?
Correct. The tenant will be hiring a mechanical engineer to lay that out.
Okay, and how will that equipment reach the roof?
There are shafts in the building that will accommodate ductwork to allow that to penetrate straight up through the 2 floors above and to the roof.
But the actual operating equipment, other than the ductwork, is going to have to arrive at the roof somehow. And I'm guessing that's
By
going to be
crane.
by crane.
Correct, yep.
But the argument that I've read here is that the existing air conditioning units can't be put up on the roof because you would have to incur the cost of a crane.
It's never
I
said
don't-
that
I don't
they
agree.
couldn't. It's a deterrent, more so maybe for future maintenance, but not that it can't happen. Of course it can happen.
Oh, I know it can happen. It happens on every other building.
Certainly can.
I'm not in favor of allowing the air conditioning units to be on the ground. It was approved to be on the roof. Our town went through, witnessed all the meetings and all the reviews, and this board went through all the reviews and all the presentations and all the considerations, and you designed a beautiful building, and you did a very good set of drawings, and you showed those units to be up on the roof.
We did.
And it wasn't your choice to put them on the ground. And my feeling is that they were designated to be on the roof. They should be on the roof. Everything else this board has worked with you on in terms of adjusting for a propane tank that I know is going to be looked at as a temporary basis or a temporary solution to a permanent gas connection. And we talked about moving the dumpsters. We've accommodated all the other reasonable requests, changing the siding and so forth. So I don't think you can say that this board is not flexible in terms of making adjustments where they're needed.
We
But this
appreciate all
was this was not an adjustment. This was a choice that was made to basically divert from what this board approved to something other than that, and now asking for permission. And I'm against granting that permission for that portion of what you're asking for.
Understood.
So
Yes,
that's where I stand.
I agree. That's why I suggest that we be presented with some options in order to allow certain things to go forward, but I would want to vote against the others.
Yeah, I don't want you to feel like I'm piling on here. But there is an approved site plan with those units on the roof, as Bob's already said. During the site visit, I actually went up on the roof. And I went through the 3-foot by 3-foot hatch, made it through. There's room up there. So I would ask that your mechanical engineer, if they're going to be looking at putting the restaurant ventilation equipment on the roof, that they show how those units could also fit there, because that's where they belong. We continue to pretend like it's okay that they're on Kear Street right now. It's not. So I would ask that either your mechanical engineer show us the plans of how those units, I think there are 9, could cohabitate with the restaurant ventilation equipment. And whether you have to rent the crane for 1 day or 2 days, everything's going to have to get craned up on the roof. But otherwise, he'll have to show us why they cannot. But I was on that roof, and there's plenty of room. There is ventilation already, waste stacks and other things coming up that I know will have to be addressed. But those units belong on the roof.
Anything else? All right, so we'll wait to see what you present.
Understood. We'll get
All right.
back to the board with that material. One last question on the dumpster enclosure. Is there any consensus that might allow that to move forward? I know we've talked about the relocation and consolidation. It seemed to be received favorably.
I don't see a problem with that. I think we have to see how you're going to enclose it.
Okay.
We need to see
Detail it,
right.
sure. we can get back to the board with that as well.
The concept we were agreeable to, just the details of what it's going to look like, what size it is, so forth.
Understood. Okay.
All right?
We'll work on it. We'll get back.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. All right. Next, last but not least, we have the Curry Honda Large-Scale Solar Project. This is a discussion of the site plan, locations 3845 Compound Road.
Good evening. I'm Michelle Walker. I'm the project manager on this project. We were here in May, and I just wanted to quickly recap this project. We would like to install a 253 kilowatt system on the rooftop. This would be a flush mount panel system, and it will be located over the showroom and the service center. There will be no battery on site. There will be a 97% energy offset by having the solar system. Back in May, we were asked to come back with some photos for visibility from the street. I think I placed a couple packets up on the table, but basically from the front view, you won't see any solar because of the parapet wall. When you're going west on Cromlin, we kind of illustrated the panels and how low mounted they are. And as you can see, there's all kinds of other obstructions up on the roof that are already existing. If you go east, you can see how low standing those panels are going to appear on the roof. I mean, the roof is going to be pretty well covered with panels, and just we'll have to go around all the obstructions. From the back, there's a lot of trees that kind of stand in the way. We could do a 2-foot parapet wall. And this, you can see the top of the parapet wall would be this red line, but it still isn't going to cover the solar. There is a 10-degree pitch to this roof, and all the other obstructions are still going to appear.
John, can I ask a question just in reference to the site itself? Has an inspection been done to make sure it's compliant with the current approvals?
We have not done that yet.
Is that something we could do?
Yeah.
There is
questions?
another site that does have solar that's within 1.5 miles, and there is nothing that screens it from the road.
What's the address? Oh, Signs Inc.
Did we see that? Did that come to us?
Which one is that?
Signs Inc.?
Oh. Yeah. With all due respect to Jay, I have a question for our town board liaison. Is the board considering modifications to a portion of the solar law affecting projects like this, or are you mostly concerned with ground mounted, or is it too?
Most of it's ground mounted, you know, large scale.
Not
Yeah.
rooftop?
We encourage rooftop.
Okay.
Is this solely for Honda, or are you going to sell to the grid?
It will mainly offset their electric bill. It's a 97% offset.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What are the next steps with this?
Well, whatever modifications you wish them to make, you can let them know that. We'll do the site visit to see the compliance, but given this type of installation, I think there's not a lot of screening issues and
Yeah.
so forth. You could do the 2-foot parapet, but as she said, you still have a lot of other things on that roof that will actually dominate the view shed more so than the panels, in my opinion. But so I think you're getting close to where you would be ready to make a decision on it. But of course, you can't make a decision. So I think if you're getting to that point, we would need to look at the moratorium to see if there's an appeal process in there that they could go to the town board if there was a case to make an appeal on it, given the fact that really what the town board is, mostly concerned with is the impact of large scale on, in terms of ground mounted and, their impacts on neighborhoods rather than this area.
I'd like to just see the back, from old 202 there, Old Compound Road, just,
Might not hurt to do a site visit with everybody.
Okay.
yeah.
We got time, right?
Yeah.
And then we'll have to determine if this is something that could be appealed. Either way. All right, so let us come up with the original plans. We'll set up a time where we meet on site and walk the property, see what we got to see.
Okay, we'll send out an email to set up the site visit.
Okay?
Okay,
All
sounds
right.
great, thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that is it. Yes?
He said he was expecting us to come do a site visit out to that outside seating area for the coffee area.
Oh, yeah.
They're waiting for us so they can decide what to do and how to do it. So
The A&S owners, the site visit out there, maybe we could set that up at the same time?
Sure.
Okay. Do I have a motion to close the meeting? Motion. All those in favor? Thank you very much.